Ever since Will Smith attempted to make a comeback with his music and of course his acting career, we know that there's a lot of fans of his own that are beginning to walk away, not just related to the fact of what happened back in 2022 at the Oscars when he slapped Chris Rock, but also given the fact that he's been going on multiple political rants as of late in 2025 and how it's just not sitting well with a lot of fans out there of Will Smith. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about Will Smith right now is that we know that he's been going off the rails multiple times, and it's really not a good look for him. It's not a good look for his entire team or anybody else that's supporting him when it comes to his overall comeback with acting or music or whatever it may be, right? Now, one thing about this is that we already know that there's been a lot of things happening with Will Smith, whether it's for Men in Black 5 or when it involves the overall generated crowd criticism out there. There's been a lot of discussions about that. We'll have a lot more to talk about that as well down the road. But what's interesting here has a lot more to do with Will Smith and his connection with Snoop Dogg and exactly what happened between the two and how Jimmy Kimmel is actually in the mix. So one thing about all of this is that we already know that Will Smith is really trying to desperately salvage whatever's left of his acting career and really trying to make a comeback with his overall, concert and everything else, that happened a couple of days ago. We know that he's trying to make multiple musical comebacks and it's just not working out well for him. But one thing is for certain right now is that when it comes down to drama with other celebrities, that's not helping at all either. Let's discuss. Now, with the Will Smith backlash showing no signs of slowing down from his critics, and now even his own fans who are walking away in droves, mind you, after his political comments and criticism about whether or not his crowd was generated, one major development going on now involves Will Smith's behavior towards Snoop Dogg after he came out calling out Disney and other studios utilizing DEI. It turns out that both Will Smith and Snoop Dogg were scheduled to appear on the Jimmy Kimmel live show via ABC toward the end of September. Specifically, they were aiming for the 26th. It turns out that Snoop Dogg, after making his comments toward Disney and deciding to cancel his appearance for the Jimmy Kimmel live show, and both Will and Snoop were going to film a pre-recorded bit that was going to be a comedy sketch, so to speak, for, of course, the last week of September. Now, after Snoop canceled his appearance, Will Smith reportedly made several remarks towards Snoop Dogg that what he did was a disgraceful act against Jimmy Kimmel, ABC, and even Disney, and not just for canceling his appearance, but also for of course, how Snoop Dogg called out Disney's shenanigans with doubling down on DEI for younger generations and younger audiences out there. This argument that took place between the two escalated to a point where Snoop Dogg actually aimed another reason, of course, as to why he didn't actually want to do the comedy sketch was because of Will Smith's inflammatory comments toward his audience and the criticism surrounding his crowd being, of course, computer generated. Now, Will Smith reportedly got very offended and snapped back at Snoop Dogg for acting like a coward, for actually claiming, of course, that their comedy sketch was all driven because of Will Smith's behavior, and how Will Smith actually went off the rails towards Snoop Dogg, of course, based on their comedy sketch for Jimmy Kimmel Live that was reportedly going to be comedic rap presentations of some kind. Now, Will, of course, thoroughly believed that this sketch was going to be a great comeback for his comedy ever since the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and felt betrayed by Snoop Dogg when he actually decided to become distant from Disney and ABC, specifically for the 26th of this month. Now, to make matters even worse for Will Smith is that Snoop Dogg informed Will that he has no intention to reschedule their comedy sketch for another program and or for the Jimmy Kimmel Live show, and is outright canceling this bit altogether. Now, guys, let me just say one thing about this. Now, this all comes after how Snoop Dogg made it very clear to the public and to everyone around the world that what he actually saw, what was going on with Disney and how they were shoehorning their DEI shenanigans to younger generations and inserting it into movies intended for younger generations and younger audiences out there, that really did not sit well at all with Snoop Dogg, and he made that very clear, not just with Disney, but of course with a lot of other studios that are actually doubling down on all that nonsense. And that was just one of the reasons as to why he bowed out of ABC from doing this comedy sketch with Will Smith. And Will Smith was very offended about that. He was very vocal about this toward Snoop Dogg behind the scenes on the set of filming this new comedy sketch that was going to take roughly around a week or two to really get it down all together, well and done. But one thing is for certain about this is the fact that this is very similar to what happened between Sylvester Stallone and other celebrity, guests that did not want to work with Sylvester Stallone when he actually came out that he was supporting President Donald Trump. You guys may recall that Jimmy Kimmel actually did not want Sylvester Stallone on his show because how it would actually create a lot of internal struggles, if you will, with the guests that are actually against President Trump. And so there was a big tangle that actually went down in December of 2024. We talked about that as well. However, after Will, of course, called Snoop a coward behind the scenes at ABC Studios, both producers and executives of ABC are now scrambling to get new guests on the Jimmy Kimmel Live show to replace both Will and Snoop. Shockingly, Jimmy Kimmel grew frustrated with Snoop Dogg beforehand after he came forward about his disgust with Disney DEI policies. Their comedy bit was going to be around 6 minutes long, maybe 6 minutes in change, and Will was desperately, of course, attempting to create a viral moment with Snoop Dogg and felt deeply offended when Snoop made it vocally known to Will that he doesn't want to be affiliated with him right now for the time being. Will had a heated argument and a heated moment not just with Snoop but also with Snoop's team that was also with him at ABC, and Snoop Dogg is also considering canceling other appearances with other celebrity cameos or guest appearances as well. Now look, we know that Snoop Dogg, after he came out and said those things about Disney, said those things about studios doubling down on DEI for younger audiences out there, a lot of people are supporting and backing Snoop Dogg, and that's a good thing because look, nobody out there in their right mind that has common sense actually favors DEI over actual common sense or anything that just focuses on pure entertainment, right? And that's why a lot of studios failed from 2016 till now, is that they doubled down on things that nobody really honestly cared about, whether it was race swapping or gender swapping or any of that nonsense that Disney did for so many years. Snoop Dogg called it all out. He called out all of the nonsense, and Will Smith really did not like that. And the fact that he called Snoop Dogg a coward behind the scenes because he was actually canceling his appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live and just saying no more to ABC, no more to Disney, at least for now, that really is very telling about exactly what's going on with the whole Hollywood situation, with the whole film industry right now that's just crumbling because you have a lot of celebrities that are now coming forward, a lot of performers and artists that are coming forward that, yeah, they're done with the DEI nonsense, they're done with any studios that actually do support that garbage, and they just don't want anything to do with it anymore. So overall, I would love to hear what everyone has to say about Will Smith, about what your thoughts are about Snoop Dogg and his comments recently about Disney, about, of course, all these different studios doubling down on that. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.